everybody. Happy Wednesday. I'm just waiting here for a couple of minutes while people join us. And I have a couple of things we're going to go through today. Hi, Noelle. While we're waiting for people to join us, I want to show you this cool card swap that I did. I joined a non-close to my heart card swap. Basically, it was called Funky Folds, and you send in a card that has a unique fold, and you get, you can send in several and you get several back. So this was a very cool card swap, and I wanted to show you some of the fun folds that I got in my return. So this one opens like this. Isn't it neat? And I think I have the die cut for this. Basically though, we used to make these all the time on our own, where you basically just cut your cardstock and then cut it and score it at certain points, and then so that one I think has a very unique fold, and it's really neat. This one, isn't it pretty? I think they're all pretty, but what's unique about this is it's got like the flag openings, but it almost like a gatefold card, but it has a flap on each side, so that's fun. And I like how she did the stencil and clouds on the inside and on the outside, and then stencils and stamped images. So that was pretty intensive time-wise. Here's one that's just a normal folded card, but it has this little opening on the front that has the message in it. So I thought that one was really unique, and this is embossed in an embossing folder, so that's kind of cool. This one, there's a couple of versions of this. I've seen this card a lot lately, where it basically opens almost like pages, but it actually opens up completely. So this card is a little longer than your typical, like if you just made a folded card. It has like that extra little fold in the middle, and then this front flap and second flap have little messages that show up. So it opens on, it almost just wants to open like that on its own, but it does open up all the way so you can see it. I thought that one was really cool. Here's the other one that's very similar to that. So it has the front flap that opens, the second flap that opens, and then the inside is your message. And this one, she made it so it doesn't open up wide. It just has the almost like a page. Isn't that cute? I like the paper she used. It's really pretty. This one's really unique in that it has like a gate, and this pulls out, and then it opens like that, like a castle. It says, take pride in how far you've come and have faith in how far you can go. And then it has the little door. It's like a castle door, which is really fun. And then this one is the most unique of all. It looks very innocent, but it pops up into like a box, and it looks like 3 cubes. I don't know how well you can see that, but it's like 3 cubes, so it sits on the table like that. It would help if I had a level table there. Ta-da! So this one is really fun, and there's been a lot of people messing around with this card style. What I like about this is she used such heavy cardstock on it that it feels super sturdy. It doesn't feel like a cheapy card, which is really neat. I just love it. Anyway, so that's my Funky Folds card swap. This is a great way to get ideas. If you ever want to do card swaps like this, let me know. I'll be happy to hold a swap myself, or I can hook you up if you want to look at some online. Okay. So today I decided to talk about the stamp of the month. It is the stamp of the month for July, and like I said last week, it has a really different look than most of the stamp sets in the catalog. It has more of a I would say cartoonish look, and yet it can look really serious. And I've been messing around with it a little bit, and I've come up with a few things myself. Last week I showed you this card, which I thought was really fun. It has like tags, has sponging, and it's just a little wood grain. I think the wood grain looks really nice with this card set. It really adds to it. This one right here, congratulations on your new home. I really love using the hexagon, and I used the little wood hearts. And then this one, I'm going to show you how to do on a scrapbook page in just a few minutes, where we used the letters that were die cut after we die cut out the letters and stamp on them. And isn't that neat? You can kind of see the scene in that. It just adds to it. The other thing, I don't want to show you the scrapbook page yet. I want to show you some pictures of, let me turn this light off so there's less glare. I want to show you some pictures done. These are by other consultants. This one was by Michael Rowley. And so there's a lot of consultants who have been playing with this stamp set, and I love how she used the Isabella paper with it and just highlighted the door of the stamp set. It really does look special. Here's a simple thank you card, and again, the Isabella paper pack. Here is this little wood grain. Oops, this little wood grain right here is from the mix-in pack for this month. So that one has been really popular. And it's just trees, and home is where the heart is. There's another one highlighting the door with the Isabella paper. I love this. This is Wander. Totally random, not related to the stamp of the month. I just threw this picture in the middle because do you love how they used Wander to highlight their pictures of a campfire and making s'mores? Gosh, love it. Okay. Let's move back to the stamp of the month. Okay, so here's a fun fold. This is the bendy card that we have made in the past, and look, they used the house and the trees at the base. That's the part that bends out, and then welcome home. Cute. Karen also did this one where she just highlighted the trees. And here's another one with just a single tree stamped in sage. Very simple, and it looks amazing with the papers. Sorry, all of a sudden I turn on my iPad and all of my podcasts are updating. I love this one, just stamped in blue, no coloring. Here's one with trees with some marker coloring. I really like the papers, the papers that she used on that. Love it. And here's another one very similar with just different papers, and outlined the edge in the sapphire ink with distress. It's really special. I really like how it looks. And here, this is marker coloring. More markers. Another one with the door highlighted, and I like how they used like the round kind of like doily scallop behind it. Jackie and I tend to be attracted to the same stamp set, so we have a lot of the same kind of ideas. This one's really unique. They did like, this is kind of a puzzle thing where you stamp it multiple times on different papers and then cut it out and piece it back together. This is my favorite. Isn't it amazing? It's like, it's just a circle of blue that looks like stars with the house cut out. Love it. Here's one done with the wood grain papers, both of them actually. So again, a lot of us are using the wood grains with the stamp of the month because it looks so incredible. I'm gonna turn my light back on. Okay, so I want to show you my scrapbook. Gosh, Jen, I got a cat going nuts in the background. Sorry, guys. It's like, meh. Okay, so this is my scrapbook page. I hope you can see it. My camera is a little close. Let me see if I can move it up a little. Okay, so what I like about this scrapbook page is that I used the wood grain down below. That's a perfect place to put pictures. Made a scene here and here. So it gives me a lot of options for where I can put my photos. So, you know, I cut out a couple of photo squares I thought would look here. These are just a double matted like 4x4. Isn't that neat? I also grabbed one that would be like 4x6, and I thought, you know, we could put it landscape or portrait. It just depends on what you know, what you have for photos. So this is what I'm thinking for this. I'm thinking that it would be really cool to make this about your heritage or roots. And so I stamped out, or I die cut out the word roots, okay? And what I did was I laid out all the letters while they were in white, and I stamped on them, and then I colored them, and I made this title. This is Roots. And I thought this is a really cool thing for, I have some photos of an old farmhouse where my grandparents lived when my father was born. I thought I just have one photo of it, so I thought that would be a really neat thing. I could just use a single photo mat and put it on there, and then maybe even tell the story about where they were from, or where that house is located, or what happened to that house now. And so, sorry, I had that upside down. So this was kind of just a thing. And then I cut out like an extra tree that I could use, you know, along with my layout to add to it as an embellishment. I know fussy cutting these trees is, it's not my favorite thing. But it's just the idea. So what I did was I just cut out the words in white and then stamped on them and colored them, and then I cut out the letters in black so that I would have like a little black shadow. And all of these I've glued together already, but this one I left apart so that you could see how I did that. I think this is really a neat thing. The other thought, Jen and I were talking about, you know, this page and how you would use it, and you could do, you know, your childhood home. You could do pictures of your grandparents, because, you know, there's even a message on here that says our family tree is strong roots because of you. And wouldn't that be neat for like a great grandparent or grandparent photo? And so there's some neat ideas using the stamp of the month that's very different than most of the ones we have. So I thought today I would show you how to build a scene. I've shown you some masking before, but I haven't actually created a mask and made a thing. And so what I did was I put various stamps on blocks, and I got out my intense black ink because I'm going to be doing some watercolor. And let's see, I'll get out. This is just White Daisy cardstock. So this is a thing about White Daisy, is that when you use White Daisy cardstock, it's important not to use too much water, because you could end up with a big warped mess. Now, if you do end up using a lot of water, you can iron it. You can use your iron and iron it. You can lay something on it while it's damp and it will flatten out if you have like a heavy book or something. And so those are things that I have done. The other option would be to use the watercolor paper, and then you don't have to worry about it because it's made to absorb that kind of water. But it tends to have a little bit of a texture, and so I like to be kind of careful about what paper I use and how much water I use. So what I'm going to do here is let's start with this side over here. The thing about a scene like this is, it looks like just a bunch of trees. How did I make it? Well, I start with the front. So let's get out my ink and see if I get that in here. So I'm going to stamp this, ink that up, and I'm going to stamp it right here. And you get this really cool, little clump of like bushes, right? Or it could even be a distant tree. The key to making this work is to cover up the stuff you've already done. So if you have any kind of Post-it note, then you just stamp that image again onto your Post-it. Okay, and then you have to do like a little fussy cutting. Now, I am not cutting this perfectly because it doesn't matter. I don't need to get every little bump in there. My main thing is when you make a mask is that you kind of cut off that line. So in other words, like if you were going to fussy cut it to put it on a page, you would want to keep the line in there so it would show. But on this one, you want it just inside the line because you don't want like a gap between your image and the thing behind it. All right. I hope that makes sense, but basically, so here's what we're gonna do. So I'm gonna put this over the top, and the next thing I'm just gonna put, a little tree over here. Now, when I'm stamping this, I'm stamping on top of the Post-it note and behind it, so that when I lift the Post-it note, it looks like the tree is behind the bushes. If I just did it on top, it would just be a muddy mess at the bottom, right? So now, let me do this big tree. So for the big tree, I'm gonna put one right here. They're kind of made to work together. I noticed as I was using them that it's like the bushes and the ground around the tree just sort of meld together. They're sort of shaped the same, so that's not such a big deal. But this middle tree is a little bit harder to do. See the little middle tree? It's this same stamp, but I don't want just a row of trees. I want it to look dimensional. So I'm going to lower this one onto my Post-it note. Notice I'm down below my Post-it, between the two trees. I'm gonna stamp again. And then when I remove the Post-it note, it's like that tree is behind the bushes, okay? And then I have another little tree that I just put here. All right, so there's the right-hand side of my scene. Now I want to show you how to do the house. So this one, I decided to start with the house because the house is so big. Actually, let's start one more. Let's do the same thing with the long bushes. Let's start with the long bushes one more time. So we're gonna start right here and get into the camera. All right, hope you can see that. Okay, so I'm gonna start right here and I'm gonna make another row of bushes. That turned out kind of light, and I'm gonna put one here too. Ta-da! Okay. All right, and then I'm gonna do my mask here, and I'm going to create the house. Now, I have made a mask of various things. I've made the big tree. I've made a mask of it. I've made another mask of this little bushes. I made a mask of the door. I made a mask of the little tree. So what I'm trying to say is that when you create these masks, you can just keep them. You don't have to throw them away. You can keep the mask and you use it over and over again and keep it with your stamp set so that you don't have to do this weird fussy cut thing more than once. This is not my favorite kind of stamping to do. I don't love fussy cutting, right? It's kind of bleh. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and stamp the house. And what you'll notice is the little pathway is coming down. Let me pull off this mask so you can see. And see how it just blends right down into the bushes like you did that on purpose, right? Like, isn't that amazing? Now, the other thing I'm going to do now is I'm going to put the mask onto the house so that now I can do some of the big trees around the house. So there's already a little tree there, so I'm going to put a tree here. And I like the idea of the tree popping out over the top of the house like here. And by adding a little greenery, you know, it adds. So when you take your mask off, you can really see the tree is behind the house, that tree is there, that tree is there. Now, the other mask I made this one right here for this tree, and I just used this little bitty tree right here. So, all right, let me clean these off a little bit. That intense black ink is a little harder to remove. Obviously, it's made to withstand some abuse, like some, you know, you watercolor it, you can distress ink it, you can, all kinds of stuff. Use Copics on it. And so when I try to clean my stamps off right away when I use it. Okay, so I'm just piling my masks back up again, and I end up with this scene. Isn't that neat? So right now it doesn't look like a whole lot because you can't define, it's hard to see the difference between the bushes and the sky. So I want to show you, I got out my water so that we could do some watercolor, and I'm trying to do this so it's all on camera. All right, I got out my brush, and I decided today to mess with some distress oxides. Okay, so I think we'll just do one half of the scene or part of the scene, what I like to do is use my all-purpose mat because it is easy to wipe off when you're done. I'm going to put a little bit of blue on there. This is the tumble glass. And then I have mowed lawn, which is like crazy green. It's like bright green. And then I have peeled paint, which is like an olivey green. Okay. So and then I got out a brown. Now you can use any brown. You can use espresso. You can use a distress oxide like walnut stain or vintage photo. You can use any of those. So I basically made my palette here, and it's hard to see, but it's blue, bright green, dark green, and brown. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add a little water, and you can see it kind of beads up because that's what distress oxides do. And I like to just touch the tops of the trees. I know blue is not is not like a tree color, but I noticed that with these distress oxides, the blue does something to it. I don't know, it looks great. Okay, so there's a little bit of blue. Now I'm going to take my bright green and my dark green. I'm going to mix it together to make a newer color, and you can see how bold it is. I mean, look on my paper towel, right? That is a bright grassy green. It may be a little too much for some of these trees, so I'm going to use a light touch, and look at me, I'm just plop, plop, plopping. I am not doing any artsy painting, okay? And there is nothing here other than dots of color, all right? I am just trying to make it look a little bit mottled because that is what trees look like. I mean, if you look up into them, they are not all one color. They are blobs of color, and you can mix a little darker again. As you blob this color around, you can see I'm starting to get like just some blended color. This distress oxides blend really nice. Now you could do this exact same thing with the normal inks from Close to My Heart. I think I've shown that a lot, so I thought I'd use distress today just because I haven't shown that much. So here I'm taking the darker brown and just a little bit of the darker green so that I can get some of the darker colors in here. And I'm going to add a little more green to that. So now I am just doing more blobs of color. How's that? If you find that you hate how it looks, the cool thing about distress ink is you can just add a little water to it, or you can add a little more of a different color to it, and it'll look totally different. So you have to play around with these just a little bit. Okay. What do you think so far? I don't have any comments, so I'm like, all right, people, what do you think? Okay, so there's my green and my blobs, and then I'm just gonna take the brown and just make the trees. I can do the brown and make the path, right? The other thing is the brown would be good for the roof, and the more water you add, the lighter the color. So if you, okay, so let's just say I did it all over in a really light tone. Now I can go back and add just a little more darkness to it so that it a shadow. Cool. Let me wipe off all of this green and blue. Start with a fresh mat, and I have some fired brick here, so I'm gonna add a little red, and again I'm gonna add some more brown. This is the, I'm using walnut stain for this one, but any of the browns would work. Make sure my brush is clean. Okay, so now I'm just gonna add a little bit of the brown and red together because I like the darker red rather than the lighter red, and I'm just gonna go and do a really light wash over the house. Okay, I'm just coloring it in, nothing fancy. As a matter of fact, the scene that you have there, I think I made the whole thing in less than 10 minutes, and I probably could have made it faster, but I was messing around playing with different colors. And I like using the brown to make some of the shadow. Like that. And then even a little bit of the brighter red for the brick. Notice I'm not even washing my brush off in between. Okay, so there's the main part of the scene. I didn't, it looks like I need a little brown down here. So there's the basic scene, and that didn't take very long, and it looks pretty good. The one thing that's missing is sky, and the way that I did the sky was the same way. I used the tumbled glass and smushed it on my mat, and I just added water. Now, the thing about this is I added a lot of water because I don't really want, I don't want it to be dark, and so I just kept working with the water. And I also like to not have brush streaks. So sometimes just, this is where I get the warping because I'm trying really hard not to use very much water, but to get the nice wash, sometimes you need to use the water. So cool, right? This is really neat. And you know, it doesn't have to be perfect. It'll look great when you're done. It's not pretty, it's really nice. And if you find like, oh, I wish it was darker here, you can add more color. You can mess with it and add more color. The other thing that is kind of nice is to add just a little tiny hint of color to the windows. Sometimes a little bit of blue or a little bit of gray in the windows so it looks like there's glass. There you go. That's how you do it. Excuse me. Pardon me. Okay, so that's how you do that. And I want you to see my finished trees up close so you can see how blotchy and imperfect they are, but they look really good. They still look really good. Well, that's just my opinion, I guess. Hi, Heather. So I really like adding a little bit of the blue to the trees. I think it helps give them even more dimension, give them more color. And if you're not somebody who has a lot of different colors, you could use your watercolor, you know, your watercolors. You could use your inks. You know, I really like using the inks from the ink pads to add a little something. You just put a little in the lid and use your water brush, and you can see how that really adds So that is a fast way to color this stamp of the month. If you decide you want to color it, obviously it's not for everyone, and it's not for every day. Like, I don't like to watercolor every minute, every day, right? I like to use markers, but it's nice to have the option to do something like that. That is just, I don't know, I think it looks really neat. Cool, cool. Okay, so let me show you one more time the scrapbook layout. I could hear the gasp when you guys saw me set it down on that mat. It's like, oh, is it dry? Okay, so here is the scrapbook layout, and again, we're looking at, I watercolored the letters. I haven't glued these together yet or glued them down, but you can see I tried to make like a little scene across the letters, and then here's the scene, and then I just did the scene direct on my paper, and then I covered the bottom with the wood grain, and I think that's a really nice background for the photo mats if I wanted to do it like this or like this. I have this one. I can do this one vertically. So a lot of ideas, a lot of options for this layout because like I said, grandparents, where you grew up. I thought this would be a really cool thing to do of pictures around Urbana because I grew up in Urbana, and this would be really neat to show some of the buildings around Urbana that have been landmarks. You know, just a few ideas with that stamp of the month. Okay, so my other thing today is a bonus because it's Shark Week. And you know, this whole shark thing is, I had to have it. It was like the very first stamp set I bought because I have another stamp set of sharks and I use it all the time. There's so many fun puns with sharks. So you can, you're fantastic, you're jawsome, hope your birthday is jawsome, happy fantastic birthday, you know, that kind of thing. Love it so much. And so I decided to do a little bonus for Shark Week because of course I had to buy this set, and of course I've been using it like crazy. So in your Hostess Club, you're going to get this card. This is called a box card. And so it's a pop-up box card. And Jen and I went round and round about the right way to make the jaws noise. She said it was like ba-bum, ba-bum. And I said I don't have a ba-bump as an option for the sharks. They were thinking baby shark, I think, when they made this, so they did the doo-doo stuff. So I was like, how about doo-doo, 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 right? That's what I was thinking. So here's the front, here's the back. I love the little chomp, chomp, chomp. I love that it has different kinds of fish and even little bubbles. It's so cute. It has fins, love it. Now when it opens, it pops up and it makes this cute box, okay? And I want to show you how to make this. I've probably shown you how to make one of these before because this is one of my favorite all-time pop-up type cards. It's simple, but it's so fun, and it's fun to get. Look, you're awesome. Do you love it? So when I send this to you, I want you to know that I made it with love. It's not like, you know, I'm thinking, you know, I'm a chomp and I'm gonna eat you, you know, whatever. So I'm gonna set that aside, and I wanna show you a template. So this is a template I've used for many years. Basically, this template is all you need. You know how I store all of my templates in an envelope, and then I have like a file. So I have like a pop-up card that I made for Christmas a couple years ago, and I have these pieces that, you know, I've made. So I have all the parts and pieces and a finished card in that envelope so that I can use it as a template. And basically it's 5 by 8.5 piece of paper. So I took a 5 by 8.5 piece of paper, okay, and I'm going to put it on my scoreboard. And basically I'm going to start at the left edge over here, and I'm going to do every 2 inches. So we're going to just score all the way down. 2, 4, 6, and 8, right? And then the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it, and I want to go 2 inches down and just score the first 3 sections, not the last section. This section's going to be solid. So 1, 2, 3, I'm just going to score. It's 5 inches, so I'm going to the 3 mark and score. Okay, there's our piece. We're ready to make. And what's so nice about this is basically we're gonna cut the flaps first. Okay, so I'm gonna cut a flap. I need a bigger scissor, sorry. Let me get my giant handy dandy shears here. So I'm gonna cut the flaps, and what I like to do, this is just extra, you do not have to do this, but I like to cut out that little bump that I just made with my scoreboard. You don't have to, you can just cut it. You can just cut it straight down and call it a day, but I just like that bump gone. I just think it looks cleaner. All right, so there's our 3. It's pretty obvious how it goes together, right? Fold, 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 and then here's your flap, 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 right? And this is just a tab, so you have something to glue to, right? That's it, that's the whole card. Now, we need to trim this tab off so it doesn't look quite so big. We don't want it to show up here. This is like the stage, if you will. This is the back of the card that's not scored, and we don't want that little flap to show right there. So I am going to just cut in and cut that flap off. It's hard to cut when it's not like right next to me. There we go. Okay, so we have all those pieces gone. We have our flap. I'm going to use some adhesive on the flap and make this go together like this. Put that under. There it is. There's the box. Ta-da! Now, you'll notice it folds flat. It fits in a normal envelope. And I like to just kind of go through all the folds and make sure everything folds nicely the way you want it to. You want to be sure that it works well for the person you're sending it to, right? Isn't it adorable? So when I decorate a card like this, a lot of times you see flowers and things like that. What you need is some cross pieces so that you can glue stuff to them. See, I made mine look like water. And the way I did that, basically you can make those cross pieces as long as they're 3 1/4 inches long, and then usually you just do like a little, I do like this, and then let me get my scoring thing out again. I like to, these are scored at the 5/8 inch mark, which is just, there's 1/2 and 5/8. I don't know if you know how to figure that out, but an 1/8 is the small notch. 1, 2, 3, 4 is a 1/2 inch, and 5 is just a smidge over a 1/2. Those little tiny marks, there's 8 of them in an inch. So you just count 5 over, 5 over. So that way you have a couple little flaps. And basically, these flaps can be as big, wide, or small. As long as they don't stick out the bottom of your box, it doesn't matter how big they are. So you're just gluing the flaps against the sides of the card like that, okay? Now, some people decorate flaps using a strip. So let me just show you what I mean. Let me grab some white or something. Okay, so for example, let's just say I have, you know, a flower or something, and here's my base. I can glue this strip onto that little crossbar and then glue a flower onto here, so that when it opens, all the little flowers pop up. It makes it really neat. So what I did was, on my crossbars, I glued a little fin. Let me see if I have the other one here. This one, I glued another little shark. And basically, you just fold these and glue them in. Now, you don't have to glue your stuff to the crossbars before you make your box, okay? You can put your box together first, any way you want it, and then decorate it. That's the normal way to do these boxes. I just think these are really cute. And I wanted to show you so that you could see my crossbars kind of close up. I used the markers to color them, and I used a white pen to accent the water just a little bit. The other thing that I thought was funny, I posted this card onto the Close to My Heart website for consultants, and I was so excited about it. Where did I put my stamp set? So this little die cut right here, it was up in the corner, and in my head I thought, oh, it's a sun. How cute. They made a sun for us. So I made ours into a sun. I thought it looked adorable. I found out from all the other consultants, they were like, oh, what a clever use of the chomp. You know, these are like teeth marks. This is supposed to be a chomp out of your card. I was like, oh, I had no idea. That was funny. So there's another use for that. And if you want to do a cute, more cute looking Jaws thing, there are some little fish here that are, you know, cuter than I made mine, a little more serious. But basically, you just glue your crossbars in. You use a little adhesive. So you just put your adhesive on, and I usually use score tape or liquid glue because it's super strong. I like to have super strong glue when I'm making these. I assume they're gonna get a lot of use, and then I fold it and make sure those crossbars are folded exactly how I like them, and they pop up just right. Cute, right? And then I cut another little sun. And or I could have cut it out here and made it like a chomp mark. Here's a little guy. To put him in the front, I just trimmed him off a little bit so that he was not quite so wide. And I just don't think it's that noticeable. I love that. I'm going to do that. So, I just think he's so cute. And what a perfect Shark Week card, don't you think? I mean, really. I was laughing because I entered this in a contest and it got like a special mention, and the people who were looking at it were like, I'm just not really into sharks. It's really cute, but you know, sharks, really? Okay, so I've got the sharks, the fin. I'm gonna fold that down. Sometimes your cross pieces just need a little extra coaxing, and make sure that they fold the way you want. Isn't it cute? I just love it. Love it. And then there's like little splash marks. You'll notice I stamped the word, I put shark with an exclamation point and some water and a couple of other little sharks. I also did a little school of fish with the shark. And on the front, you'll notice I did the shark and I did not attach his tail, so that whichever way I folded it, it wouldn't get bent up. Whenever you put anything into your pop-up, just make sure it doesn't go taller than your envelope, whatever envelope you're going to use, because when it pops up, I mean, this is technically the top of your card, so if your flowers or whatever you arrange in this card are taller than this, it'll be a problem getting it in and out of your envelope. You're awesome. Thanks. All right. So happy Shark Week, everybody. I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope you enjoyed the stamp of the month. I just have so many things to show you this month. I'm excited to show you stuff. So, all right, one more time, in case you need to do like a screenshot of the template, or you can just look online, pop-up box. And thank you guys. Have a good afternoon.